ahead and then present the speakers today. Tammy?
Yep. So I am going to introduce Bob. So you've got there, he's got nearly 30 years of supply chain experience as an executive, a lot of strategic work and portfolio planning, like all that long range planning has been doing for many, many years. He has been in CPG, chemicals, high tech energy, oil and gas, all of our good stuff, and a lot in new venture funding. That's his official bio, but also note that he is actually he was a member in college at Texas A&M, right?
Yep,
Okay, I didn't want to
that's
say
right.
that wrong because that could be fighting words here in
That's
Texas.
right.
So anyway, former Aggie, and he's if you ever get a chance and you run into him, ask him about the story of when he met Mattress Mac. It's one of my favorite stories that he's told. So anyway, with that, Bob, you want to introduce Ravi for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tammy, Joanna, ASCM Houston. It's a pleasure. I'm actually here at our Houston headquarters of iChain Consulting. We're out in Sugar Land, and our founder, Ravi Chawla, actually is here today with me. We're in separate offices so that we have good video. So Ravi founded this firm around about 2008 and was a former product manager with JD Edwards in the production scheduling space, and then later at Oracle, worked around demand planning, the mantra, supply chain planning broadly, and then supply chain execution, continuing that production scheduling side. So fast forward in about 2016, we started a practice in Kinaxis. So we've got a broad portfolio of customers that will highlight some of our experiences. But Ravi, I call the professor of supply chain planning with lots of great experience, and together we make a great team. So we'll co-present today and look forward to this session. And I'm going to ask if I can share. Looks like that's working. Everybody see my screen okay?
I can see it.
Yes.
Okay. So that's who we are. I know you've had a number of sessions, and AI is a buzz in the air. And I know one of the recent PDMs had a little bit of the same kind of theme of like what is really happening in the world of AI. And so what we wanted to do today is not just dispel myths, but give you really practical insights into what we've seen as a firm, what we're seeing in the field now, what our partners in the supply chain planning software ecosystem are doing, and what we're reading into their roadmaps and their engagements with clients. We will today start to unfold what various aspects of AI look like in the real applications, in the best practices that customers are using today. And then next week in part two, we'll dig even deeper and show some live software examples of an agentic AI studio and how folks are building and training agents in addition to optimization kinds of opportunities in demand and supply planning. So kind of going through the more strategic aspects today up to the point of showing some of the software examples, and then next week, kind of even diving deeper. Now, so we did our bio. Here's who we are. I mentioned, founded in 2008. One of the things that I love is that we're involved not only in large strategic projects, but also tactical enhancements and what I call planning as a service. We literally have customers we've been under contract with for many years, where we're doing successive go lives every 90 days in a cloud delivery model. So what that does is allows planning teams to leverage our expertise to tune their systems, to tune their planning dashboards, to tune their planning workbooks to their business today. Maybe a new product has been introduced. Maybe there's a new customer or demand stream that needs to be evaluated. Maybe they've moved from production goods to now include MRO and service parts planning elements. All of these things result in kind of the continuous supply chain development. We've done over 170 go lives now in our history as a firm. We are a small focused boutique. We have a small team in the U.S., but very strategic, seasoned folks that have now gray hairs like I have, and increasingly so. But a strong, experienced team, and we're complemented with a global team, not only in India where we have a lab that you'll hear more about that's developing and training agents, but also a team in Latin America, and so kind of a nearshore option there that we leverage across, really the full spectrum of supply chain planning, including from design to plan, source, make, fulfill, and then continuous operations. We do advisory services. I personally, advise, Fortune 100 to Fortune 500 chief supply chain officers. We do consulting services and implementations. And then, as I mentioned, kind of ongoing managed service or planning as a service to help those planning teams to continue to make the planning tools relevant. And when we see success, we gauge it by how much are you getting out of your planning system versus having to do in Excel in offline processes. So that's how we, typically like to see the adoption. So just quickly today and next week, March 5th, we're going to share some insights from the field and our engagements with clients and how they've experimented with AI, and they're on a journey, to increasingly adopt. We'll talk about some specific use cases in the area of demand forecasting with ML, and then ongoing optimization improvements that we see with ML. Agentic AI, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about automation, but we're also going to talk about, the chat AI kinds of things and how planners are getting more and more use from these modern systems with that advent. And the other topic is data preparation and data integrity improvements. That's a big part of all of our AI projects is, referential integrity and building some best practices around not only cleansing data, but maintaining that data governance and process to ensure that AI is getting fed the right food. And then we'll ongoing both today and even deeper next week have some live use cases in the software. So we hear as we talk with customers, and you may have some of these same observations, but we often hear customers ask us these kinds of questions when we start the conversations around AI, starting here kind of in the upper left of the clock. Should I focus on custom AI development, custom agents, custom ML? Or should I stay within the guardrails of my supply chain planning vendor's package? And so that's an ongoing debate and one of the key themes we're going to cover today. Second, how do I quantify the value? Clearly, AI requires some investment in terms of infrastructure, in terms of training, enablement. I want to make sure that the investments we make are strategically and explicitly stated, and develop the right return for my company. I'm constantly involved in the discussion around data. Is my data ready for AI? There are lots of data questions, but one of the first kind of barriers that we see is customers really wondering, am I ready? Because my data will determine my success, and I think that's well noted. The next question I get is, what is the impact of AI on demand forecasting? This is an area we're very keen to address and have some strong experiences in ROI. So I won't go into all of these questions, but hopefully you see the list here. Another one that we see is, what is the impact AI will have on my planning team, on my role, on my job, on my career, or on my team in terms of headcount needs? Does all this automation make these things go away, or these teams go away? Well, absolutely not. You'll be pleased to hear what we're going to show is how you get more and create more value and generate more value as a supply chain planning team from whichever aspect you're approaching the business. And I will try to advance a slide here. There we go. I've got to. There we go. Cleared my drawings. Okay. So some live data points. As I mentioned, we've had about 170 go lives over about 17 years as a firm. And so we went back and polled a lot of our consultants and clients, and we have ongoing clients where we're doing not only project work, but ongoing services like the planning as a service. So this is a representative snapshot across all those teams. Um, so the first thing I like to talk about is the experiments. So we've had a number of customers that have started in the area of using custom ML as a way to experiment with the impact on demand forecasting. About 2/3 of our customers have either engaged us, or we found them doing it on their own, or advising them or coaching them in some aspect, whether it's through a resource or us managing the project or them just doing it on their own. We found a lot of folks, about 2/3 of our clients and network of teams have embarked on this, sort of data science project, maybe leveraging tools from Microsoft or AWS, to take streams of data, apply some ML custom logic, and improve their demand forecasts. The thing that we've seen is that those one-off projects have created learnings. They've created an understanding of how the sources of data can be used to improve the forecast. And then the next phase is, how do you then scale that and make it mainstream across your planning team and within your planning systems? I mentioned data preparation earlier. Most clients, before they embark on a full-scale AI or ML project, are spending anywhere from 2 to 4 months with an intensive, purposed, data governance, data cleansing, data enrichment, and oftentimes data creation. Whether it's missing routings or bills of material that need to get created more as a planning bomb, or whatever that missing data element may be to create a more automated, calculated supply chain optimization. We'll see customers spend quite a bit of time in that data prep phase. We have probably this number changes every day, but chat AI is a whole new paradigm for interfacing with supply chain planning systems. It's a whole new way of interfacing with everything we do out in the world today. And my light just went off. Apologize. And so chat AI is a new paradigm that we leverage and see our planning teams leverage. This is probably closer to 100% of our customers are now using chat AI. We're going to show some examples yet today. And then customers using Agentic AI whether now or in the future. Agentic is in our labs. We have multiple projects where we're running agentic AI, training agents to automate and streamline and get to that vision of an autonomous supply chain. About half of our customers, this is an interesting area that I like to dig into. About half of our customers now are using AI approaches to drive the productivity of the planning system. So this could be the parameter setup of a demand planning system. This could be segmentation of products, of items, of materials. It could be segmentation for target stocking levels and inventory policies. We're seeing lots of practical uses of AI to make that more efficient, and makes then therefore the job more easily done in the planning system as opposed to offline Excel spreadsheets. Okay, so those are areas that we see customers using AI today, and some key statistics. And this slide, we essentially talk about the areas that you can leverage AI today in modern supply chain. Starting on the upper left, I mentioned data projects being one of the key areas that you need to address to get ready for an AI initiative. We actually, in our practice and in our customer base, some of the more sophisticated customers are actually using AI in the data integration and data prep phase. So whether it's doing a statistical analysis of your data cleansing, your data gaps, and then taking that statistical analysis, applying ML and automation rules to make the data prep go even more streamlined and faster. That's a big part of every project that we're doing. And then automating that data pipeline. There's data fabric approaches where folks are leveraging solutions like Databricks and other data fabric kinds of tools that allow you to get out of sort of point-to-point moving data from, say, your SAP system over to a planning system and get more to a modern approach to data being available and provisioned to all applications at once. And then, as we move forward in time, training agents across applications so that you eliminate the need for integration is kind of the next phase. And then moving, around the clock from data to demand planning. I mentioned already the ML-driven approaches there. I won't go back into that, but new product introduction and engineering change management is a big area for understanding impact of new product introduction, new product material readiness, material staging, all of those kinds of things. I think we're going to show a couple of examples where we do some chat AI around asking the right questions and training agents for that. Inventory planning and optimization, of course, with those of us in supply chain planning over a long period of time, this is a hot topic that has been addressed with traditional AI for many years, and now is getting even easier to manage in the planning tools because of Gen AI and Chat AI and also the extensible ML that we see. And so at the end of the day, we're seeing more automation of demand supply and event and exception response, and it's quite an exciting movement. A few examples in the upper left here in consumer products, we've seen customers go from AI-powered forecasting to speeding and streamlining their consensus-based planning across their organization. We have a consumer products company that's actually improved forecast accuracy by 8%. They were able to even address bias. We mentioned our experience in energy and downstream. We had a customer that did an additional stream of POS data to gain insight to downstream sell-through data. And that was, an untapped, very difficult, heavy lifting kind of initiative in the past that became easier to do as a result of some of the AI work. And so these data scale problems, a couple other examples are listed there with a quick serve restaurant example with thousands of locations. All of those things that have been really hard to do over time have become increasingly easier because of the scale that we're able to operate at. Just quickly, agentic AI. So this one's probably the hottest topic and the most questions we get day to day. Obviously, there's a lot of news that gets published out there. But at the end of the day, we see three objectives. One, we all have a vision of getting increasingly autonomous in supply chain. And for me as a planner and someone that's grown up in planning, I've spent many, many years just moving data and prepping data and getting the data into a state where I can evaluate changes in demand, forecast, understand how to map supply to that, and get a good feel of what should my inventory stocking policies be or levels. And all of that data movement and data prep now can become more automated. So I think we're kind of at a phase where we can deliver that in these projects now. I don't think we're at a phase where we're going to autonomously run supply chains and take the wheel away from planners, but we're certainly at a phase where we can give planners more tools and tools that now allow them to focus on the strategic decisions and less on manipulation of manual tasks. And so the second objective is what's known as ambient AI. So this is AI running constantly or systems running constantly in the background that detect, analyze, and respond, or at least present planners with the options of actions to execute against exceptions that have occurred in the supply chain. And then lastly, enhancing your collaboration with the supply chain systems. We mentioned chat AI. We're going to show some of that. So today, the reality is we've got agentic AI platforms that mostly are custom, and increasingly the supply chain planning system vendors are releasing agentic AI frameworks and agentic AI capabilities that will make that more configurable and more scalable and easier to deploy. But most customers are now experimenting with some type of agentic AI. And we have online marketplaces where we've built agents. We participate in a marketplace with Oracle. We have agents we've built together with Kinaxis. And so many vendors out there are able to deploy agents to be productive in planning today. The next phase that's coming about in the agentic space is training these agents to handle the exceptions, and get planners out of a mode where they're having to manage and plan for every exception and get them to the vision we've long had in supply chain planning, where a planner is really focused on the most critical decisions that will make the highest impact and manage those exceptions. Increasingly cross-functional agents that cross from sales and market driven activity across to demand forecasting and then supply chain. So we're starting to work on the next generation of agents that are cross-functional. And then our partner vendors have underway and to some extent have already given us and at our fingertips templates to build models for agents that can learn, streamline, and automate many of the tasks that our planning teams do. So, I think the end of the day, if you look to the bottom right, application to application, this is across finance, across procurement, across demand and supply planning. Agents are going to be developed and deployed across all functions, and we're going to have to learn to work across all of these agents over time to really be able to perform at the next level. Some of the common approaches, I won't go into all of this detail, but essentially the key question is, should I build custom AI, whether it's agentic AI or more the traditional AI through ML? Should I do it with the generic or the core cloud platform ML and AI capabilities from, Google or AWS or Microsoft? Or should I partner more closely with my supply chain planning vendor and kind of wait on them to roll out the more prescriptive approach? And I think, the answer to that question is it depends. And we have customers that are experimenting on both sides, and there's a time and a place where both make sense. These are some of the examples that we're deploying use cases across the board today with kind of both of these approaches. In the custom ML space, most frequently we're focused on demand forecasting, maybe some supply optimization kinds of things. You see the tools that we've done and used there. Agentic AI, we have deployed custom agents and done work there to automate tasks. We tend to, in the agentic AI, stay really focused with Oracle, with Kinaxis on what they're enabling as a platform, because the interaction is so specific in supply chain planning. Most of our projects really stay focused with the supply chain planning vendor, but there's a use case, and there are times where we will embed custom agents across the board. So some of the use cases there, I won't go into all those details, but happy to have follow-ups with anyone at a future point. And what we're building towards, as my colleague Ravi is about to come on, is give you a framework now for how do we effectively go and deploy and get value out of this AI phenomenon. And no surprise, it starts with great governance. We have a governance model we use and deploy, and it always starts with an executive leader that has an inspiration, a vision, and shows strong leadership of how the organization should relate to AI, and make supply chain planning AI part of your chief supply chain officer or senior supply chain leaders real, operating business model. We often have QBRs where AI and AI projects are featured. We're showing, just like we would show with effectiveness of planners, we're showing the effectiveness of AI. The third point in governance is data stewardship has to become everyone's role. It has to become, part of performance planning. It has to be part of your performance management system, and making sure that data stewardship is front and center. Incentives. We need to incentivize teams. Every time we run a project, we look for ways to incentivize and work with HR teams to really address in compensation, in creative ways to encourage and entice creativity, but also compliance with data. And then lastly, management system and culture kind of go hand in hand. We want to create, the right recognition. We want to create a vibrant culture, do some unique things to make it, a creative and fun approach, but then also manage it with a KPI and management system, and set of performance standards that really the organization is looking to achieve. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Ravi, and he's gonna kind of get right into some of the nuts and bolts of how we're using AI in some of the systems today.
All right. Thanks, Bob. I think you can keep presenting, Bob. I think that way
Okay.
it's in essence of time. So, Bob kind of presented a big architecture of what the AI kind of does to, systems or processes or people, right? But when we ask the fundamental questions, right? I mean, the questions which are being expected to be answered by a planner or even some of the AI agents down the line, right? If they get some autonomous behavior there, kind of remains the same, right? And so what we are changing is the tool set, right? I mean, questions to planners are still going to be the age-old questions, right? If what is the impact of my demand change, right, to my supply chain, or where's my gap between the budget and the current demand plan, and how am I gonna quickly close that out, or even more important question, especially when we have customers who are in industrial manufacturing or complex, even from people who are making rail cars or complex medical devices, right? And they want to understand where their bottlenecks at, right? Where are the gating items, gating materials, resources at? And it's sometimes challenging to kind of figure it out very quickly, right? And the main thing we want to try to do and use these new AI tools to answer these questions very effectively, right? Create these AI chatbots or agents where planners can literally ask these questions now rather than having to dig for hours and 10, 15 levels of bombs to kind of figure out where's the gating item at, right? Because these systems were planning systems were advanced, right? They always had optimization and built in there, but what was difficult was to their usability, explainability, and so forth. And we see the great opportunity with AI kind of coming in and creating that layer with the users to answer those questions effectively, right? And like Bob was saying, that what we're going to do is we're going to show you a few snapshots today, just as a curtain raiser, and next week, I think when we meet again, we'll go in the software details and actually show you some live demos where we would ask questions like, where's my how can I really quickly get to my gating items, via AI chat, or even some of the AI agents saying, okay, if I find my gating resource, can we tell the agent to run certain scenarios and provide the suggested results, and based on our objective setting, take decisions potentially, right? So like in this example, right? I mean, if you see, this is my typical supply chain structure where if you see the diagram on the right, we have the customer where we're supplying the products to, and then we have a regional DC, which could be, in international or a central DC, and then that could be supplied from the internal production facility, and then we have different bill of material levels, and then we have external production. So multi echelons, right? Either via locations where we are transferring the product, right, or the level of bill of materials, right? And it's super difficult as you, in your experience in planning, that has been the numero uno question to us: how easily, how quickly somebody can figure out what are the most critical gating items are, right? And the modern tools kind of give us visibility, visualization, right? If you do the next step, Bob, next slide, yeah. Or like in a conventional, indented bomb, it might kind of tell us where the constraints or where the gating items are, right? But then the planner problem for the planner remains is that they need to intently know various views of a software. They have to go and find these out, right? So when we started like kind of looking at the AI advent and say, okay, how can we answer these questions much more easier, right? Do I have to be an expert to answer these questions? Not necessarily anymore, right? So like as an example, it's the next slide, Bob. We have the AI agents and embedded AI agents available in these tools where I can quickly go and ask a question like, hey, where's my gating items in this sales order? I just got a query. And the tool will automatically go in and say, hey, this is my gating item right there, which is actually embedded in the fifth level of bill of material, seventh or eighth echelon level. If I look at the bill of resources, right, from where the order is supplied to down to the level where it is, and it does that in seconds, right? So that to me, I think, is the first question answered on explainability, visualization, and then also alleviation of a lot of training, right? Because Chad is pretty age old, and then if we can define a lot of questions to guide as well, this can really take us to the next level in terms of the usability of these tools, and the ML and optimization which is inbuilt can be brought forth with the type of solutions it can bring in, right? Um, so that's what I think we would like to kind of demo you guys next week as a curtain raiser, where we'll literally go in the software and then um, and try to show you not only that it will know what the constraint is, but we'll also let it run scenarios like where it would be able to tell us that, yep, I can here are the other alternate suppliers which are modeled in, but it's going to cost us XYZ more, and we can actually analyze those results right away, right? And then we can answer different questions, right? So Bob, if you can go to one more slide, I think we have the last one here. Is if you were doing something in SNOP or IBP where we were wanting to quickly get to our gaps in the budget, which we set annual plan, which we might have set to the latest demand plan, and otherwise it would take us time to drill in to figure out which product lines, product groups might have this significant gaps. Now we can similarly ask these questions, and even we don't have to know the exact product line details or where to go and kind of get the answers. And then also the agentic AI is going to enable the systems to run scenarios, or we can either predefine them or give them some parameters to do that, to get the suggested answers. And that's like, I think, like Bob was saying, that there are different stages, right? First, we get acclimatized with, a new user interface to do a more Q&A type of interface rather than kind of knowing the software and finding the answers, right? And then the next one would be to kind of it becoming our partner to suggest various what if scenarios, solutions, and then we quickly can kind of gauge what are our best options too, right? So look forward to work with you guys next week. I think these are some of the curtain raiser points we wanted to show today. Yeah. Okay. Bob, I think you can go to the next slide. That's probably the last one here. Back to you. Yeah.
I can figure out. This is just a first step in the journey. So appreciate Ravi showing a bit of the software of the chat AI work that he's been doing. Next week, as he said, we're gonna go from now the strategic and get into some of the aspects of supply chain planning. And Jack, asks a great question here around what is a specific task that agents struggle with today, but we think AI will do really well in 3 years. And the kinds of things I think about, Jack, I'll just answer straight on. Um, is really the intersection of demand and supply that have been hard questions at scale for us to answer. Capable to promise is one of the classic ones, and I think that has typically involved lots of teams focused on demand planning, demand forecasts, the moment of the order, and then options for supplying, right? And I think that whole process of giving your customer a good commitment date and making a commitment based on your corporate goals of profitability, of revenue, of unit volume, whatever those may be, and keeping those aligned. I think that's that's what's going to take to become more and more autonomous. And that's where the agents are headed, at least in our space in supply chain planning. So that's just one idea, and I appreciate the question. Um, there's a QR code if you want to snap that really quick and create a QR code that should take you to the link for next week's session. Happy to answer questions both here in the chat. And happy to stay on for a few minutes and answer any questions folks have. But we wanted to, give you a quick drive by today during your lunch hour. We appreciate you taking the time. Next week we'll get into some real industry examples that I have listed here, and Ravi's going to take it even further and deeper in terms of showing how the software is leveraging AI.